All right, the watch list video for Friday, June 17th. Showing you the SPY here. 5-minute candles, it gapped down, sold off, little bounce, and then really started to roll over. It looked like the end of the world. Finally, the market's going to fall apart. And here's what happened the rest of the day. Just ripped higher all the rest of the day. So, market's still holding up pretty darn well, right? So here we go. Here's my watch list. VBLT. Had a really nice pop today. After gapping up somewhere in here, they did an offering and it sold off, and then a pretty powerful bounce today on an intraday basis. I didn't even notice this one until this big spike here, right? Because it was just bleeding lower, then popped up, barely took out the highs, flagged, and then ripped again. And it gave just a very clean 5-minute buy setup right back down to the 5,200, the 5.8, and a nice narrow candle here. I called it long over this candle, 415, worst case stop, 407. So 8 cents risk, and you can see what happened. Went all the way up to almost 465. It's going to go back on watch tomorrow, although it's a pretty big candle today. So if it doesn't do anything tomorrow, it'll certainly be back on watch next week too. Smith & Wesson, SWHC. I was looking for an intraday trade in this thing, and it just wouldn't give me what I was looking for. But I did say that I'm not an overnight holder, and I'm definitely not an overnight holder into earnings, but this one was super interesting to me to nibble somewhere today on. And I put that on StockTwits, and I mentioned it to my room, but it's extremely dangerous to hold into earnings. But anyway, in after hours, after earnings, this thing popped up to, closed out after hours at 23.40, so it's nicely up here. I'd had a good day trading, and my members would tell you this. I don't even hold 100 shares overnight, but I did hold 100 shares of SWHC just to get the feeling of holding overnight, and just I couldn't stand the thought of not playing my hunch. So anyway, I made like an extra 120. I'm already out. I made like an extra. I sold it in after hours. Made like 120 extra dollars on that 100 shares I held overnight, and I was just doing it into the earnings. I don't care about what it does from now on, but it was kind of nice to add 120 to my daily gains. But having said that, I'll treat this one as a gap play tomorrow. Let's see. Let's go to 30, 60-minute candles. Oh, it actually, for some reason, it shows the after hours if I go to 60 minutes, which is weird, but it does. So we'll treat this one as a gap play tomorrow and see if we get another setup, but I'm not in it right now. MTCH. You had this pop here on the, actually this is when it came public, popped to here, and then just kind of a big old cup and handle, and it's very close to all-time highs, at least a couple days ago it was, right? And I said I didn't want to chase, but it goes on radar. I'd like a pullback first. Now you've got a 2-day pullback, so it's a pretty clean setup. So I'm watching this one for a bounce and head higher on Friday, only with a proper setup on an intraday basis. CLRB was on watch today, gapped down a little bit, sold off, but then had a nice bounce in the afternoon. Here it is on 15, so ended up closing about where it opened after that initial sell-off. This one goes on long watch for tomorrow. CLRB, GBIM. I really like this one because it's low float stock. Had this big pop here after a day and a half of the move. It went to 288, lower high, and then a pretty good rip 4 days ago that went to 242, 2-day pullback, and then another rip today. I had a nice trade in this one today, and I really like it again long tomorrow over today's high. So 218 might get us up to, and maybe we break through that 200 day. So that's my number that I'm watching, but 218, that's just a break of yesterday's high. Keep in mind, if it opens at $1.50 tomorrow and then gets to 218 after the first 30 minutes, 218 means nothing to me because it will be in the short-term extended. So all of this depends on how it trades on an intraday basis. But having said that, I like this low float that gets these big spikes, and pretty good chart setup here. And then lastly, I've got a small list today. I got VHC, which broke out a couple days ago and then a couple quiet days. So I like it over 609. I'm going to say, 609 would be a break of today's high. Same thing applies as did for GBIM. 609, I'm not going to live and die by that number, but if it breaks that, it might come up and re-challenge that 650 high. Hopefully we'll find some nice gappers in the morning as well. All right, I'm going to leave it at that. Have a great rest of your evening, and we'll talk to you tomorrow.